everybody, it's Angela, and I'm back with another process video. And for this layout, I am going to use this Teresa Collins, I think it's called This Life Noted, or is it True Stories? I'm not sure. I'm going to use this Teresa Collins collection mostly for this layout. And I'm just going through the papers, looking through, seeing what's going to work. And I love this sheet with all these little speech bubbles and stuff. So I want to cut a bunch of those out and use them as my layering embellishments, since I don't have a lot of other things that go with this collection. So I'm just going through and picking out sentiments that work, and also trying to look at the colors and stuff so that I can, kind of change the colors throughout this cluster. And so I'm liking that. And these are the pictures I'm going to use. I'm trying to figure out if I want to use one of these large photos and then a couple little photos, or exactly what I want to do. So I go ahead and cut them out, and I decide to at first go with that one that I cut out and then two small ones, but in the end I go with the two large ones. And then the smaller ones that I printed out won't go to waste. They'll go into my junk journal, or they'll go onto another layout. So I have these other Teresa Collins things. It's called Daily Stories. And I have some other pieces from that collection, and then some from another Teresa Collins collection that is similar, and I grouped together with this, but I don't think I wind up actually using any of them. So here are the pieces that I've cut out, and I'm thinking at this point to layer a bunch of them down the right hand side. So I decide to go with both the bigger pictures and not use the smaller ones. So I decide I'm going to mat those two on the same photo mat, and then do a cluster of all these other little sentiments on the right. So now I've just got to figure out which papers I want to use for my matting, and I do want to use several layers. The pictures don't have much color in them, it's mostly brown, and the tractor's red, and the disc is green, and there's a little bit of green trees showing in one of the photos. So I know I have to bring in some more color. So I decide to go with this floral paper from one of my mats, and that will bring in some of the yellow, that kind of golden yellow, that tealy color, and the kind of pinkish red color. So I go with that for my first mat. And then I look around for my second mat. And I'm looking at this yellow. There's kind of a soft bluey mint color. There's some red. So I decide to go with this gold for a little bit bigger mat than the first one. I put that on there. And I want to use those it has the different months across there in red on white. And I want to use that for my background paper. And so I decide to use this heart paper for one of my layers, and I just look at where to use it, because there were some of the cut apart cards on the back side that I thought I might use, so I didn't want to waste those. I guess it was some border strips. So this is my background paper, and it has different months of the year on there. And so those are all my mats that I'm going to use, and that just brings in a little extra color, because the photos were a little bland. And these are photos of the tractor and disking and harrowing the field. And my husband had given me a crash course on how to drive the tractor. And he was showing me how to do this, because that tractor, it was a loaner tractor that we had while ours was in the shop. And it had a buddy seat in it, so I could sit in there with him. So he was kind of showing me how to do it. And then once I kind of knew how to do it and how to lift the disc when I went around a corner and stuff like that, he kind of jumped out and left me in there to finish disking the field. And he went and got the drone or the quadcopter and took some video of me disking the field. So this was kind of the first time I had driven this large tractor and, you know, all this equipment. And I'm somewhat, I mean, I drive our 5-ton Army truck and stuff like that. I'm starting to get used to it, but I'm a little hesitant to drive large machinery, I guess because I'm not very experienced, and I'm always afraid that, you know, I might hurt something or someone. That's my worst fear, is that I, you know, might harm someone. And so I'm really hesitant to use the equipment, but out in the field, you know, out in the middle of all that dirt, it makes it a little easier. And there was no crop or anything. I didn't have to be precise or anything like that. So it was the perfect place for me to start getting comfortable with running this big machinery. And so I actually had fun doing this and everything. And so that was good. And it helped me get comfortable with running some of this big machinery. And so it was the first time I had done this. So I wanted to go ahead and document it. So I just took some still shots out of our footage, out of the video footage of me plowing this field or disking the field. And so I wanted to document that. And as you can see, I've just been kind of cutting out all these little sentiments. Some of them are in speech bubble form, some of them in arrows, some of them in tickets, some of them in tags. And so I just wanted to make a huge cluster of those along the right hand side of my photo. So I have all these little pieces and I'm trying to figure out how I'm going to make this work. And I put that tag with the red tag with the little hearts on it in the background there. And I come to find out that it kind of works better if you put a couple layers in the background, bigger pieces in the background, and then layer these smaller ones over the top. So I kind of play around with it there for a little bit. And then I decide that, yeah, I do need some bigger layers in the background. So I pull out another one that says remember this, I think, or remember always. And then I'm kind of starting to like that. So I take these two that I want to kind of tuck under the mat and put those on the top and bottom. And then that helps me center the photos on the page. And then now I want to take these bigger pieces and put them on the very bottom as my kind of my background layers. And I just punched a hole in that tag. I wind up covering the holes up, but at that point I didn't know if I was going to put some twine in there or not. And then I'm taking kind of that mushroom Adirondack ink and just inking the edges, some of the tags, just to give them a little more definition. And I go ahead and put those two layers. And then I'm looking for another large layer to put in the background. So I take this one cut apart tag and it just says write this down. And even though not all of it's going to be showing, it just gives you that base to layer all these smaller bits on. You don't have to be able to see all the writing of every tag to kind of know what it says. And your brain, you know, fills in more of the wording than you really realize. And I think once people see it and stuff, they'll kind of know what it says. So I'm just going to ink the edge of this tag. Go ahead and put it down. And then this is what I'm going to use as my base to layer all these smaller items on. And some of these items I'm going to bump up on foam tape. Both the speech bubbles I put up on foam tape. And then I think another one of the items I put up on foam tape as well. So I have two speech bubbles, each pointing a different direction for the little, on a little point on the bubble. So I'm putting one at the top, pointing with the little point pointing into the photo, saying this is the story. And the other speech bubble, this one that I'm putting the foam tape on, is pointing the other direction, but it says for real. And then it kind of points into the one that says really ? So it kind of made a little more sense that way. So now I'm getting into a couple of the other shapes, working in some of the arrows and tickets and banner shapes. And I'm looking in there also because I feel that I need something else color-wise up in this one gap. First I'm looking for something more vertical, so I think I'm using that. But I just didn't really like that in conjunction with some of the other tags I had already cut out. So I don't keep that tag here later. I put the ha 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 up on foam tape. So I like the So Crazy and the photo, so I think I'm going to use those, or remember. And that brings a little bit of that orange and a little bit of that teal up into that area. And then I put the This Is the Story. I'm just inking the edge of both of those speech bubbles. And then I decide that the ha 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 is the only kind of golden colored tag I have on there at the moment. So you'll see that I find one tag off a sheet that I put in there to kind of bring some of that golden color up farther in that cluster, and I'll wind up changing it out here. I'm kind of just looking through the stickers. There's a lot of really neat stickers on here in this collection, but I don't wind up using, I don't think I use any of the stickers actually. So here I was looking for another kind of golden piece to put in there, and I don't use that. So then I take this For Real and I put it in there, but I do wind up changing it out here in a second for another, I think it's a speech bubble shape. Yep, I put Smile instead. And then I realized that I didn't really have a place for all of my journaling. So I go ahead and I lift up this Remember This tag, and I find this other Teresa Collins envelope from a different collection. And I just go ahead and insert that instead, because that's where I'm going to put all of my journaling. And then I was like, well, you know, I have this teal sparkle paper. So I go into my Heidi Swap looking for some more teal sparkle stuff that I can include in this cluster. And the teals aren't exactly the same color, but I'm okay with that. So I like the hearts, or I mean stars. So I pull a couple of those out. And I decide to put this bigger outline star toward the bottom. And then this solid star up a little higher in my cluster. And even though I put the star over the So Crazy, you can still say that, you still know that says So Crazy on there, so it's not a big deal to cover up some of your wording. Your brain fills it in. I just take my tiny attacher and I put some staples at different places on there for another texture. And then I'm wanting a little more of that teal sparkle throughout, so I go ahead and I put this heart toward the bottom, and then I really want something else up toward the top, so I go back into my box of Heidi Swap embellishments, and I'm just looking. There's an arrow, and I keep looking through. I find a larger star, or a smaller star, and so I go ahead and decide to use that. And now I'm just trying to figure out where to put it. And I decide to put it over there by Snapshot. And so that gives me, you know, touches of that sparkly teal throughout the whole cluster. And then I didn't really want to put twine on that heart tag, so I didn't really like the hole there just by itself either. So I go ahead and I pull a flare out of my stash, and I go ahead and put some foam tape on it. Or actually I put some super sticky tape on there first, and it just wasn't thick enough. So now I'm putting foam tape over the top of that. And the flare badge just says date, and then it has a space, and I just used my Sharpie to write on the date in there. And now I'm looking through all my enamel dots, and I'm looking for some of the teals and the oranges and stuff that might work. And then I find a Teresa Collins pack of enamel. It's got dots, hearts, and stars on it. And the orange was, really close. So I go ahead and put 3 of these bigger stars and then some of these smaller size stars. And then I had this one other pack that I had 2 little teal stars. I wish I would have had 3, but I only had 2, so I go ahead and stick those in there as well. And so that is my layout finished. It was a really simple, quick layout. It's been really hot here in Oregon, and it's been in the 90s, and so I don't have any air conditioning in my craft room, so I pretty much sit in there and sweat. So I've been trying to do really quick layouts, and that I can get in there and do and get back out and get near an air conditioning. So there is my cluster with all the little staples, the little teal hearts, all the enamel stars, and yeah, so I had a lot of fun making this layout, and I really love how it turned out. And in the still shots, you'll see I put my journaling on there, and I put another little tag on the insert card to help me be able to pull the journaling tag out. There you can see it says right now on it. That helps me pull the journaling tag out. And then I just used a Sharpie on the flare badge, and that is my finished layout. So thank you guys so much for watching, and if you have any questions or anything, just leave me a comment down below, and I will talk to you guys again later. All right, bye.